outside from the clubhouse?
No, you go in straight through the entrance, and then you make a left. Yeah, you go straight in, don't turn and make a left. Shit, he's running.
He's running? Which way is he running?
Down towards the other entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Okay.
All right, sir. What is your name?
George. He ran.
All right, George. What's your last name?
Zimmerman.
And George, what's the phone number you're calling from?
407-435-2400.
All right, George. We do have him on the way. Do you want to meet with the officer when they get out there?
Yeah.
All right. Where are you going to meet with them at?
If they come in through the gate, tell them to go straight past the clubhouse and straight past the clubhouse and make a left. And then they go past the mailboxes. They'll see my truck.
Okay. What address are you parked in front of?
I don't know. It's a cut through, so I don't know the address.
Okay. Do you live in the area?
Yeah.
Well, what's your apartment number?
It's a home. It's 1950. Oh, crap. I don't want to give it out loud. I don't know where this kid is.
Okay. Do you want to just meet with him right near the mailboxes then?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, George. I'll let him know to meet you with you out there. Okay?
Actually, could you have him call me and I'll tell him where I'm at?
Okay. Yeah, that's no problem.
You need my number or you got it?
Yeah, I got it. 407-435-2400.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, no problem. I'll let them know to call you when they're in the area.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I got to about here, and I had a flashlight with me.
Okay.
The flashlight was dead, though. And I looked around, and I didn't see anybody. And I told non-emergency. I said, you know what? He's gone. He's not even here.
Right.
So he was about there, but he was walking towards me.
So he's coming from this direction here.
Yes, sir. I believe, like I said, I was already past that, so I didn't see exactly where he came from, but he was about where you were.
Okay.
And I said, no, I don't have a problem. And I went to go grab my cell phone, but I left it in a different pocket. And I looked down in my pant pocket, and he said, you got a problem now. And then he was here, and he punched me in the face.
Right here?
Right up around here.
Okay.
To be honest with
That's
you,
fine.
I don't remember exactly. I think I stumbled, and I fell down, he pushed me down, somehow he got on top of me.
On the grass or on the cement?
It was more over towards here. I think I was trying to push him away from me, and then he got on top of me somewhere around here. And that's when I started screaming for help. I started screaming help as loud as I could. So I tried to squirm off the concrete. And when I did that, somebody here opened the door, and I said, help me. And they said, I'll call 911. I said, no, help me.
Sanford police still trying to figure out exactly what happened in this spot here last night. We talked to a man who didn't want to be shown on camera, who witnessed part of the attack right here, then went upstairs to his window and witnessed the rest of it after he called 911. What are you thinking now about all this?
This afternoon, I talked to John through his front door about what he saw last night during a fight that turned into a deadly shooting.
The guy on the bottom, who I believe had a red sweater on, was yelling to me, help, help. I told him to stop, and I was calling 911.
John locked his patio door, ran upstairs, and heard at least one gunshot.
And then when I got upstairs and looked down, the person that was on top beating up the other guy was the one laying in the grass, and I believe he was dead at that point.
Support. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury by giving us your name?
Jenna Lauer.
I want to draw your attention back to February of last year, 2012. At that time, were you living at the Retreat at Twin Lakes Townhomes in Sanford, Seminole County, Florida?
Yes.
And was your address at that time 1211 Twin Trees Lane?
Yes.
If you could state your name and spell your last name for the record, please.
Yes, it's Jane Surdika.
I want to draw your attention to specifically February 26th of 2012, a Sunday evening. Were you living at the address of 3021 Retreat View Circle?
Yes. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. State your name for the record, please.
Jeannie Manalo.
I want to draw your attention back to February of 2012. Were you living at 2861 Retreat View Circle?
Yes.
Okay. At some point that evening, close to 7 o'clock, 7:05, 7:10, around that time, did something draw your attention outside?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you could, as best you can describe, what first drew your attention outside?
I just heard voices.
Okay. The voices that you first heard, your TV was on?
Yes.
When you heard it?
Mhm.
The volume was on?
Yes.
When you first heard the noises, could you tell it was outside?
Yes.
Could you tell whether it was outside in the backyard or the front yard or somewhere else?
I could tell it was the backyard.
Okay. And the voices that you heard, were you able to make out any words from those voices?
No.
Okay. In relation to your backyard, specifically your porch, or let's get more specific, your living room, could you tell from what direction they were coming, or could you just tell they were outside somewhere?
I could tell they were coming from the left of where I was sitting.
Okay. And would that be if you're looking out your porch, if I'm looking right out and your porch is right there, would they be to the left of you talking about?
Yes.
Okay. At that time, did something draw your attention outside of your residence?
Well, first, I heard it just started bucketing down with rain, so I had the window open. I got up and I put the window down, and when I turned around to get, sit back on my bed to read, I heard loud voices.
And let's backtrack a second. Could you tell that definitely the voices were coming from outside, in other words, outside versus somebody inside their home?
Absolutely. It was very, right from where I am, it's like 20, 30 feet, and you can hear it very clearly.
Okay, so it was somebody or two individuals outside?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at around 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, did you hear some noise outside?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could, describe to the jury from your perspective the noise you heard, what you describe it as best you can.
I heard a howling sound.
And you're actually using the word howling like a dog howling?
Yes.
Okay. When you heard that, what did you do?
I looked out the sliding door.
Okay. When you first looked out, were you able to see something distinctly?
No.
Okay. And why was that?
It was too dark.
The first thing that catches your attention, you say, is sort of, I think you said a conversation, correct?
Right, or like a loud talking.
And that was out the back and to the left?
Yes.
I think you testified in your deposition that it was sort of by the T intersection?
Yes.
Did you mean this when you were talking about the T intersection?
Yes.
That's where you first heard the noise?
Yes.
In terms of the second series of noises that you heard, if I understand it correctly, you heard some noises that drew your first attention to it. You couldn't make out what was being said. Is that correct?
Right.
And then how long after that did you hear additional noises, the second round of noises that we're talking about?
It was immediate after I muted the TV.
Okay. Was there any gap at all?
No.
Okay. So it was just a continuation?
Yes.
Okay. How long did that, those noises keep going?
I honestly couldn't say.
Okay. You described it as a scuffle. Could you at that time, other than hearing scuffle in grass and concrete, could you hear anything else? Any exchange of words or any, at that time?
No, after the scuffling, it gradually went into like a grunting noise.
Okay. All right. And when you say scuffling, were you able to actually hear somebody hitting somebody, or more just, or tell me how you describe it?
It sounded more like if two people were rolling around. I mean, at first it sounded like maybe people were standing up because I could hear sneakers on pavement. And then after that, it kind of just sounded like wrestling, because at one point I felt like they were about to come through the screen. I mean, it sounded like it kept getting closer and closer.
Okay. So the movement of that was closer and closer to your residence?
Yes.
Or the back of your residence?
Right.
Okay.
After the howling, I looked. I didn't see anything.
Okay.
I heard help.
Okay.
I didn't see anything. I looked out again, and I saw them there, and I saw my neighbor.
All right. So this is the third time in terms of looking out, or whatever time it is, you're looking out, you see him. Tell us what you saw out there at that time.
It was dark, so I saw two people on the grass, one laying down, one on top, and I saw my neighbor came out from his sliding door. I remember him saying, "Are you guys okay? Do you want me to call 911?"
And if you can, describe to the jury what you observed. When you say on the ground, what were the two individuals on the ground doing? And how were they positioned to the best of your recollection?
One is on top of the other. The one on top is moving his arms.
Okay. You're describing something with the hands, or you're demonstrating to the jury, I should say, moving something with his hands. Can you tell exactly what the person was doing on top with his hands?
Like he's hitting him.
Okay, like he's hitting. Okay, and then what?
Then that's what I saw.
Okay. Could you tell it was somebody, the other person, could you tell whether the person was below, on the bottom of that person that was hitting, or on top, or on the side, or where?
I know the top is just hitting down.
Okay. Could you see the person in the bottom clearly in terms of what position that person was in?
Just laying down.
Laying down? Okay.
Was it your testimony then that that movement or the sound seemed to move from the T intersection down almost right in front of your, or back of your townhome?
Yes.
Did it seem to you that the noise was moving in that direction?
It was moving that direction.
It was?
Yes.
So just to sort of orient all of us, including the jury, I'm going to put it sort of behind you, if you don't mind turning towards me just a touch. This is you. This is in your house somewhere in here, correct?
Yes.
You heard noise, and I think you said it was somewhere in this area?
Yes.
Does that sound right? You didn't see anything, you just heard?
Yes.
Through the doors that were closed?
Yes.
But you could hear what you identified as a howling?
Yes.
And then the people, when you did look out, I know we're passing over a couple of your views, and I'll get back to that. But when you finally looked out to see people, you saw them in right about this area?
Yes.
And that was when you saw two people?
Yes.
One on top of the other?
Yes.
So from your best recollection, when you got your inside light turned off and looked outside, the voices that you had heard, you believe, were the men that you then saw on the ground in
Yes.
this general area.
Yes.
And by that point, one was on the top of the other.
Yes, that's how I saw it in the dark, yes.
Mm-hmm. And you could see well enough to see that the person on top had a dark colored shirt or jacket on.
It looked like it was dark, like black, or I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
While you were talking to the 911 operator, did you hear, in addition to the voices you talk about, or the voice that yelled help, do you recall hearing anybody else out there?
I did hear my neighbor
open
his door.
All right. And is he your next door neighbor?
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of your residence, you're on the corner, would that be right next to you?
Yes.
Right. And is his name John Good?
Yes.
Okay. And when you said him open the door, you actually heard the door open?
I heard it open, and I heard him. I know his voice, so.
Okay. And when you say you heard, are you talking about the sliding glass door open?
Yes.
Does he have an enclosed porch like you do, or is his porch just an open piece of pavement on the ground?
It's just open.
Okay. And do you recall whether Mr. Good said anything when he opened the door? Do you recall hearing him say anything?
He said something along the lines of, what the hell are you doing?
Okay. And when you heard Mr. Good say that, at that time, did you continue to hear a voice or voices in addition to Mr. Good?
Yeah, the yelling for help continued.
Okay.
You said that it was difficult for you to identify that screaming voice as that of George Zimmerman, correct?
Yeah, I couldn't tell whose voice that was.
Yeah. Have you ever heard George Zimmerman scream like the person was screaming that night?
Never.
Would you consider those screams to be life-threatening screams?
Yes.
Did it seem that there were the screams of somebody who was getting beat up?
They were being hurt somehow, yes.
Maybe somebody who was having this done to them?
It's possible.
Have you ever seen this picture before?
Yes.
Could those screams have come from somebody who was having this done to them?
You may proceed.
Good morning, sir. Could you state your name for the record?
Jonathan Good.
I want to draw your attention back to February of last year, February of 2012. Were you living at a townhouse at Retreat Twin Lakes, specifically the address being 1221 Twin Tree Lane?
Yes.
Okay.
Was it a strategy on the part of the state to put a witness on the stand who actually bolsters the defense's argument?
Well, I don't think that they wanted that to happen, but I think that that's what did happen. Look, when you're in a courtroom, you kind of know what the other side is going to do. So I'm sure the prosecutor knew if I don't call John Good, they're going to call John Good. So I might as well do it myself and get out in front of it. The problem is, when you compare John Good to other witnesses that we've heard this week, this is the end of the first week, the girlfriend Rachel, for example, compare their demeanor. And it's all about who the jury believes and who they think is trustworthy. When I watched John Good testify today, he wasn't on either side. He wasn't on Trayvon Martin's side and he wasn't on George Zimmerman's side. But what he said, I thought, was much more compelling for the defense case, even though he was a prosecution witness.
Interesting. John Good worded his answers very carefully, fastidiously. Let's listen to some of these exchanges.
Do you think that it was the person on the bottom who was screaming for help?
I mean, rationally thinking, I would think so.
Could you say unequivocally to this jury who was saying something?
100% no. Like I said, when I walked out, it looked like it was only one person. Then I could see a second person, and it looked more of just a tussle. And that's when I thought it got serious, when it moved up to the sidewalk and he was more in a straddle position and arm movements were going downward.
It's very interesting, Martin and Diane. He didn't say punches. He said arm movements going downward. Does one side benefit more than the other, Diane, do you think, from his attention to detail?
Well, I still think it's the defense, I have to say. Look, let's distill down what John Good said today. He said the lighter-skinned man, Zimmerman, was on the bottom. He was being straddled by the darker-skinned man, Trayvon Martin. Punches were going down, or arm movements were going down. Now, because another witness said, I didn't see him pounding his head into the pavement, it doesn't really matter because we have those dramatic pictures of the blood coming off of Zimmerman's head. When I look at everything we've heard this week, I would have to give it to the defense so far.